Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, Section 123 of the Atomic Energy Act, as you know, requires that all significant U.S. nuclear cooperation agreements must be approved by both houses of Congress. Last year, Congress approved two such agreements, one with South Korea and the other one with Great Britain, who are our allies. However, in this case, when we're dealing with the world's leading state-sponsored terrorism, the position of this administration is that should not be subject to approval by the United States Congress. I don't quite understand that distinction. Can you explain that to me?
Thank you, Congressman. I think the issue is what is the best form of an agreement in order for us to have the flexibility that we need to make sure that Iran is living up to its obligations and to be able to reimpose sanctions quickly if it's not. What we are seeking is, and the issue here is really whether this is a legally binding agreement or not. If it is a legally binding agreement, it would be subject to the rules of international law on how you get into an agreement and how you get out of it, which can be quite burdensome. So having a non-binding agreement allows us to have the flexibility we need, if necessary, to snap back sanctions immediately, not wait for international partners to agree or not agree. With regard to whether it's a treaty or not, and so subject to the advice and consent of the United States Senate, as you know, the vast bulk of international agreements that we've made under Democratic administrations, Republican administrations, in the nonproliferation area, in the foreign policy area more generally, in fact, are not treaties and are not subject to the advice and consent of the Senate. And I can go through the list. Under the nonproliferation area, we have everything from the missile technology control regime, which has been very successful in creating voluntary export licensing around the world, the nuclear security guidelines.
And my time's limited. And I appreciate what you're saying. I just think we're treating our allies different from the state sponsor of terror, and I think that the American people, through its should be weighing in on this deal, but I know we disagree on that point. ICBMs, this concerns me greatly. There's been this has been off the table, not part of the discussions at all. And the intelligence community and the Pentagon in its annual report on military power of Iran have noted that by as early as 2015, this year, they may have ICBM technology, missile ranges that could potentially reach as far as the United States of America. And then the Ayatollah, the supreme leader, says that to limit this program would be a stupid, idiotic expectation, and that the Revolutionary Guard should definitely carry out their program and should mass produce. Why in the world isn't this on the table? And does that not concern you about their intent here?
Yeah. The missile program is absolutely a concern, which is, again, why we have been working very vigorously around the world to deny, where we can, Iran the technology for that program and to push back against proliferation. And that effort, whether there's an agreement or not, will persist. And those sanctions and the various measures we're taking will continue regardless of whether there's an agreement. The scope of this agreement, if there is one, is the nuclear program. That's what our partners have agreed to. That is what is being negotiated. It is not a missile agreement. Now, there are aspects of it that come into this that are critical in terms of Iran's capacity to mate potentially a nuclear weapon to a missile. And indeed, we are focused on that because that does fall within the confines.
Well, because that's the delivery device for a nuclear warhead.
Exactly.
And so they're not backing down on that, which kind of makes me question, their whole good faith analysis here. And I, if I could just say, when I read their own words, President Rouhani, who you say is taking a different tact and trying to be a maker here, says that in Geneva Agreement, world powers surrendered to Iranian nation's will. And that's in his words. And then, they said the centrifuges are spinning and will never stop. When Prime Minister Netanyahu gave his speech to the joint session of Congress, Iran was blowing up a mock of the USS Nimitz in the Red Sea. Simultaneously, I question the good faith here. You have an extraordinary challenge, sir, and I wish you all the best, but I cannot, I just have to question the good faith on the part of Iran.
Sir, you're exactly right. It's not a question of good faith. It's a question, and by the way, whether it's President Rouhani or the foreign minister or any others, it's not that we think these are good guys who like the United States. It's that there are some people who are somewhat more pragmatic about what Iran needs to do for its own interests in the future, and they believe that negotiating an agreement and getting some relief from the pressure that they've been under is what makes the most sense for their country. Again, not because they like us or have good intentions. The other thing I would say, I think it's important, is that there are abhorrent statements made on a regular basis by Iran's leaders on all sorts of issues. In some instances, though, some of these statements are made for domestic political purposes. We sometimes have a tendency to see Iran as the only country on earth that doesn't have politics. In fact, it has very intense politics. And there is a lot of politics going on right now between those in Iran who would want an agreement, again, because they believe it's in the interest of the country, and those who don't want one. And some of the statements you're seeing, as objectionable and as abhorrent as they may be, some of those are designed for political consumption at home to push back against those who don't want an agreement. Thank you.